Think about how many times you've committed to a diet in your life. You are ready to lose weight this time. You had a nutrition plan in place. Maybe you even started exercising. You followed your diet to a T and you were making beautifully home-cooked, healthy meals every day, packing your lunch, taking it to work with you. You weren't mindlessly snacking. You were truly being so good. And yet, week after week, your weight on the scale either did not move or worse, it went up a couple pounds. How frustrating is that? All of your efforts feel like they've gone to waste. And quite frankly, some of the reasons for that are that we are women. So our weight doesn't drop linearly, unlike my husband who can literally skip dessert one night and lose 3 pounds on the scale the next morning. It's so annoying. But it's not only because we're women. You might be surprised to hear that women who are actively cutting calories, who are eating in a calorie deficit, underreport how much they eat at nearly twice the rate of people who aren't dieting. That's from a peer-reviewed study of over 18,000 people. If you're over 40, eating in a calorie deficit, and still not seeing weight loss progress, those missing calories are just one of 5 common places that a calorie deficit commonly breaks down. In this video, I'm gonna tell you what all of these 5 things are and how they're costing you serious results in your weight loss efforts. And I'm gonna give you the solution for each one. Because so many times when we're doing something with good intention and putting all of our effort into something, we don't realize all the things on the periphery that could be holding us back. I'm Andrea and I lost 20 pounds in my mid to late 30s and I've kept it off for over 10 years now through perimenopause. And I'm also a double certified nutrition and fitness coach. Okay, I want you to think of a calorie deficit as a system. If there's any part of that system that's off, no matter how small, that can stop literally the whole thing from working and producing results. Let's get into it. Okay, reason number 1 that a calorie deficit breaks down is that your tracking, your monitoring of your food has invisible gaps. Meaning you think you're eating 1,600 calories and that's your deficit, but you might actually be eating 2,000 calories. If you're cooking at home with oils or eating out of a restaurant a few times a week, grabbing a handful of snacks at the office, or taking bites off your kids' plates, like none of these are free calories, but we treat them like they are. But they add up so fast. In fact, research shows that the average woman who isn't tracking their food, like in an app or on paper, underreports by around 400 calories a day. Those 400 calories are the entire deficit gone, and you never even realized it was happening. The highest risk foods are calorie-dense fats like oils, butters, nut butters, nuts, avocado, things like that. Like any food that's predominantly fat, because those are the easiest to eyeball wrong and also the most calorie-dense at 9 calories per gram compared to 4 calories per gram for carbs and fats. So over twice as caloric. A pour of olive oil that looks like a tablespoon is probably closer to 2. And that's 120 calories that you didn't account for. Sure, on its own, that may not seem like a lot, but these types of calories, these types of increases add up meal over meal, day over day, week over week, and you're adding hundreds of extra calories to your diet. These high-fat foods are the ones that I recommend to weigh while you're in a deficit. Grab a kitchen scale, a measuring cup, measuring spoons when you're eating or cooking with these at home. It's a super simple shift to make, and the impact on your weight loss efforts could be huge. And when you eat out at a restaurant, I would add 200 to 300 calories as a buffer to whatever you're logging for that day because of the oil, the butter, and just like the high fats of most of their proteins when you eat out of a restaurant. In my experience, when I eat out at a restaurant multiple times a week for several weeks, no matter how healthy I eat at home for the rest of my meals, or even how healthy I ordered at the restaurant, I always gain weight. These extra calories that you get at a restaurant are sometimes unavoidable. Like you don't even know that you're consuming them, no matter how healthy you order or how healthy you try to make that particular meal. So you just need to factor in a buffer to your total daily calories to account for it. Because when these extra calories are unaccounted for, they can absolutely keep your entire diet in deficit from working. You can literally eat less food every single day and still be over your calories by these high fat and unaccounted for calories. Okay, reason number 2 that a calorie deficit breaks down is your body reduced how much it moves. When you cut calories, your body burns less all day. That part is automatic, it's biological. You don't even realize that you're doing it or actively decide to do it. It's just happening, and I promise that it is, even if you're not recognizing it. Your body conserves energy by trimming all the small, unconscious movements that add up over the course of the day. You may sit a little bit longer, or you decide to take a closer parking spot, or you skip the stairs, all without thinking about it. And this kind of activity is called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And research shows that it can drop calories by 100 to 300 calories per day while you're in a deficit. So you basically have a calorie target that stayed the same, but now your body is moving less and burning fewer calories. One way that you can stay on top of this, and this is what I love to do, is to track your steps. Create a step goal and treat it as a non-negotiable for you. Use your Apple Watch to track your steps, or I have an app downloaded called the Pacer app, I believe, and I put it on the home screen of my Apple Watch or on my phone so I know how many steps I'm getting a day. And if you're mostly sedentary all day like I am, you work at a desk and you're in an office, then I would schedule deliberate walks twice a day, preferably after a meal so you can bring down your blood sugar when you can, and try to make that consistent. Force yourself to take the stairs, park farther away, and when you're on a call, stand up or just pace. None of this seems substantial or feels like a workout, which it shouldn't, but it's impactful because it replaces the movement your body has stopped doing while you're in that deficit and keeps your body in calorie burning mode, which is what we want. Okay, reason number 3 is the one that most directly affects your metabolism. And if you follow me, you won't be surprised that this one is on my list. Reason number 3 that a calorie deficit breaks down is your protein is too low. So many women eating in a calorie deficit are not eating enough protein to prevent their muscle loss. And here's why it matters. The research on holding on a muscle during weight loss consistently points to a floor, meaning the minimum that you should have, of about 0.7 grams of protein per pound of goal body weight per day. If you eat below that 0.7, your body doesn't have enough protein to maintain its muscle. So it starts breaking down the muscle to use as fuel. I like to think of muscle as expensive real estate. So when you're eating fewer calories and your body's trying to conserve all the energy that it can so it doesn't starve or die, it starts by breaking down muscle first because muscle is heavier than fat. And the less muscle mass your body has to carry around, the better, because it wants to conserve energy. But less muscle means your body burns fewer calories at rest because it doesn't have that heavy muscle it's carrying around. And then when your body burns fewer calories at rest, that same calorie deficit that you were in slowly starts to work less and less. So if you're in a calorie deficit, aim for at least 0.7 grams per pound of your goal body weight. Or if you have less than 10 pounds to lose, aim for 0.7 grams of protein per your body weight. So if your goal weight is 150 pounds, that's 105 grams a day minimum, which is roughly 35 grams of protein spread across 3 meals a day. And I know what you're probably thinking, because I used to think like this too. You eat chicken and eggs and you have Greek yogurt throughout your day. You've always figured that you get plenty of protein. But I promise you, most women eating a healthy diet, meaning a diet with minimally processed foods, lands somewhere between 55 and 75 grams per day. That may work or be enough on the lower end when you're in maintenance, but when you're in a calorie deficit, that is not enough to protect your muscle. The gap between that 70 grams and the 105 grams is about 1 extra protein serving per meal, which is nothing. And it changes substantially how your body handles eating less and being in that deficit. So the next time you sit down for a meal, Put protein on your plate first. I call this a protein anchor. And then you build everything else around it. If you want your exact numbers, I have a free fat loss formula workbook that's linked in the description, and it walks you through step by step how to calculate your calorie maintenance target, your protein goal, and your calorie deficit all in one place. It's free and it's linked down in the description. Okay, reason number 4 is the one that most women are closest to quitting their diet over, and even sometimes myself, because it is incredibly frustrating. Reason number 4 that a calorie deficit breaks down is the scale is lying to you. Tell me if this has ever sounded like your experience. You have had, let's say, like 3 strong weeks of consistently eating healthy. You are moving your body. You are doing all of the right things, but the number on the scale hasn't moved. Maybe your clothes are fitting a little bit differently, a little bit better, but you don't even know because your mind is so consumed with what the scale says. When you consider stress, sodium, hormones, and water retention, that can hide 3 to 5 pounds of real fat loss on the scale at any given moment. Your body is changing if you're in a calorie deficit and you're being consistent, especially if you're also working out. But sometimes the scale just hasn't caught up. Your daily weight number is the noisiest number and can be the biggest distraction for your weight loss journey. We use it to validate that what we're doing is working and to give us motivation. But then the minute we see something that doesn't align with our actions, we treat it as a sign of failure. It can literally swing 2 to 8 pounds in a single day on water alone. The best thing you can do for your success and your sanity is stop making decisions based on it. And I know that's much easier said than done. If you saw my last video on getting summer body ready, I'm currently doing a little mini cut to lose a few pounds and tighten things up for the summertime. I did not step on the scale beforehand. I didn't check my weight before this cut to see what it was, and I'm not weighing myself throughout this cut. And the reason is because I get so emotionally attached to that number that it's not healthy for me. If I see a number that doesn't align with my efforts and it isn't what I expect to see and isn't showing me progress, then I mentally think nothing's working and I see myself differently. I see myself as being much heavier than I likely am. And I've been in maintenance for over 10 years. I know this very well, dieting my whole life, that the scale is just not representative of your actual fat loss, especially for women. So I would use these 2 things as measurements of your fat loss success. The first is, if you must weigh yourself, and I get a lot of people feel the need to, take your weekly average and also take a waist measurement. So for the weight average on the scale, weigh in every morning at the same time after you've gone to the bathroom, before you've eaten or drank anything. And then at the end of the week, average those 7 numbers so you can get your average for the week. And for the waist measurement, this one is key. Measure around your belly button at the same time each week. Do these both again before you've had anything to eat or drink and after you've gone to the bathroom for the most consistent results. Fat loss shows up in your measurements and your weekly trend before it shows up on the scale as a steady drop. If your weekly average is sliding down and your waist is shrinking, then what you're doing is working, and that's great. That's good encouragement and motivation for you, no matter what this morning's scale said, right? And if it's not, then I would go back and evaluate numbers 1 and 2 on this list. I had a client on a weight loss journey. In fact, she was a friend of mine. She would send me pictures of her scale weight several times a week. And it's always because she was so frustrated that it either did not move 1 single pound or it went up several pounds. And she was working so hard. We had her on a strict diet of all whole foods. She was in a calorie deficit. She would send me pictures of her meals. She was doing all of the work and the scale was not cooperating. And she, rightfully so, started to question whether we had the right plan, if the plan would work for her, if she's just too old, all of these other factors. She was doubting herself. If she was truly following the plan and doing everything that we laid out on this video's list, which I know she was, then she needed to trust the process, which is so much easier said than done, that the scale would eventually catch up. It took 6 weeks for the scale to finally show weight loss progress, which is wild. And for some people, it may be sooner. For some, it might be later. But if you trust the process too, the scale will eventually catch up for you. Okay, this last reason, number 5, is the one that sets me back every so often, especially lately, which if you saw my last video on getting summer body ready, I mentioned how I am struggling with this lately, and this is likely the culprit that made me gain a few pounds and fit tight in my shorts. Reason number 5 that a calorie deficit breaks down is that your flex meals or cheat meals, whatever you call them, are canceling out your deficit. This one comes down to a simple trap. You eat well and on plan Monday through Friday, and you're doing so well and you're just like following it to a T. So in your head, like this week was a success, it was a win. So then you give yourself some flexibility on the weekends to go out to brunch, maybe go have some drinks and basically just eat off plan and have some flexibility. But a calorie deficit isn't a weekday thing. It doesn't just exist Monday through Friday. It is a 7-day total. And the handful of bigger meals that you have on the weekends can add up to more than everything you saved in the calorie deficit during the week, which lands you right back at 0 or even in a surplus without even realizing it. Say you're eating in a 400 calorie deficit each day. That's 2,000 calories saved across 5 weekdays, which is amazing. You should feel great about that. That's a big number. But now picture the weekend. You have a dinner out, maybe with the family, a brunch with the girlfriends, a couple of meals where you're not really tracking. And we already talked about the calorie expense of eating out at a restaurant. If 4 of those off-plan meals runs about 500 calories over your target, which is super easy to do when you're eating out, that's 2,000 extra calories right there. Your entire week of careful, healthy eating, following your deficit, canceled out just like that. And then if you add a couple glasses of wine one night at around 250 calories, maybe a couple cocktails on the second night for another 300 to 400 calories, now you've actually closed out the week in a surplus, meaning you ate over your maintenance calories, even though 5 days out of the 7 looked perfect. Cheat meals are totally fine. They're actually really helpful during a fat loss journey and a calorie deficit. But off-plan meals need to be treated as a part of the plan rather than the exception to it. Here's what I recommend that I do myself. Decide what you're going to eat before you're sitting in front of it. You can do this by pulling up the menu in advance and choosing what you're going to have before you even get to the restaurant, where you're probably already hungry, you're smelling all the foods, you're seeing the plates on everybody's table, and there's likely a bread or chip basket in front of you. And when you order, ask for the dressings and the sauces on the side so that you can decide how much goes on, or ask for your food to be cooked without butter. These preparations and modifications can save you literally a few hundred calories on their own. And then maybe have 1 drink instead of 2 or 3. And opt out of the dessert unless you really love dessert, and then maybe share it with someone. Look, none of this is necessarily a restriction. I'm not telling you not to go out to eat. It's just planning and being intentional about what you're going to eat. You can run a flawless deficit 5 days a week and still not lose any weight or even gain it, because a deficit is the entire 7 days, not just the part that you bothered to track or account for. Every one of these 1 through 5 is really the same problem wearing a different outfit, because the deficit only works when all 5 parts are on point and accurate. And 1 part being off is enough to stall your entire weight loss progress, no matter how hard you're trying. And the thing is that dieting as a woman over 40 is so hard. Our results are so slow, and we're often left wondering if it's even going to work for us if we're able to lose weight at this age. I'm here to tell you that absolutely it is. Yes, it requires more diligence and it requires more adherence to doing the right things. That is just our reality now. But the great news is that we can still lose weight effectively and be our healthiest, hottest selves at this age. The genuinely hard part isn't fixing these 5 things to improve our efforts. It's really figuring out which ones apply to us, which ones are interfering with our success the most, since most of us are at least dealing with 1, but maybe 2 or 3 at the same time and not even realizing it. If you want to know other factors that could be stalling your fat loss right now, I have a free metabolism type quiz. It asks you how you're eating, how you're moving and tracking, and then tells you where your deficit is most likely leaking and what to fix first. And it's free. It only takes about 2 minutes, and the link is in the description below. If this was helpful, hit that like button so that more women over 40 see this in their feeds. And subscribe if you want more content like this and so you don't miss next week's video. And if you want more on all things health, fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle for us women over 40, come and join the Behind the Body community. Every week, I'll send you something right to your inbox to help you keep making progress. You can sign up for free at behindthebody.com/newsletter, also linked below. And if you want to see what I'm currently doing to get summer body ready, check out this video next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.